Well, with Moscow offering to sell oil and Ukraine proposing drone experts and systems, the war on Iran is spreading over to that war as well. To get a better insight on what impact it could have, we can speak now to a professor of international politics at the University College Dublin, Scott Lucas. Thanks so much for joining us. Firstly, can you maybe tell us a bit more about this offer from Ukraine, which is fighting its own war? What can it really do, for who, and what realistically could it get in return?
Well, the first thing it could do for those states who are facing Iranian retaliation in the region, and for the United States, who has partnered with them, is to provide some bolstering of limited defenses against that Iranian drone and missile retaliation. We don't know how long Iran can maintain its pace of strikes, but drones are fairly inexpensive to use in attack. So you need, as that report summarized, that inexpensive way of trying to counter them. And Ukraine is now in the fifth year of a Russian invasion, which is first and foremost a drone war. So you send across Ukraine's drone technology, and it's now amongst the leaders in the world. You send across the experts who have developed that technology, and you send across those experts who operate the drones and drone defenses. It's not going to, completely stop the Iranian retaliatory threat, but it's a significant contribution. What does Ukraine want? Ukraine wants to try to lock in U.S. support. The U.S. Russia-Ukraine talks are not going to get a ceasefire. The Kremlin's not going to agree to that. So what Ukraine needs is they need longer-term reassurance from the U.S. added to the existent support from Europe and other countries, which is our own air defenses. Contribute to those and contribute to the security guarantees that we need if we can ever halt the Russian invasion.
It seems like a lot is in the United States. I mean, a lot of the weapons that Ukraine was getting were being sold by the United States. The United States now using missiles for its war on Iran. I mean, to what extent do you think the White House will be interested in this drone interceptors enough to prompt them to change maybe their stance with Ukraine?
Well, I think they're interested in the drone interceptors. Let's be clear about that. The U.S. military wants them. Now, how much will a fairly unpredictable and chaotic Trump camp do to bolster Ukraine? And you've already mentioned in your report that at the same time we consider whether the Trump folks will realize that Ukrainian security is essential. They have relaxed sanctions on Russia, notably through a 30-day waiver on India purchasing that Russian oil, which of course gives Russia revenues at a time when its invasion is struggling and when the Russian economy has problems. It also should be noted that, even if the U.S. relaxed and said, well, maybe we'll provide some Patriot air defense systems, you've highlighted that we're finding that those very expensive air defense systems are not the complete answer here. Add to that the fact that some Pentagon officials tried to cut off U.S. military aid entirely. I don't think we're going to see a significant U.S. contribution to air defenses in Ukraine, but do we ensure that the Trump camp do not ally with the Kremlin in demanding a Ukrainian surrender, which they did as late as last October through Donald Trump's envoys, who were actually colluding with the Kremlin on an ultimatum to Kyiv? If Ukraine can fend that off, that is some type of reward for this contribution to the defense against the Iranian retaliation.
And can you bring me a bit of insight into Russia's position in all of this? I mean, obviously it's happy to sell oil that has been off the market since it invaded Ukraine, but it is also an ally of Iran.
Well, the problem with Russia's alliance with Iran is you don't know where the Iranian regime is going to be next. And even if the Iranian regime continues to survive, which I think it will, it has been badly battered. And if Russia gets too close to Iran while the ongoing U.S. and Israel attacks continue, Russia is going to be affected as well, even if that's not a direct military intervention by the Kremlin. Secondly, if Russia gets too close to Iran, it can upset Donald Trump. And if you upset Donald Trump, then he might decide that Vladimir Putin rather than Vladimir Zelensky is the bad guy in this situation. So I think Russia is going to simply be very careful. It'll make statements denouncing the war, but not do much more. More importantly for me is it trying to recharge on the Ukraine front? It lost territory in February. It did not gain territory in February. notably because Starlink was cut to its troops after a deal between Ukraine and Elon Musk. So Russia's trying to figure out where they go next in terms of their ground assault and in terms of their aerial attacks. Uh, I think they'll continue those attacks, but I think Russia's in a position of its own cul-de-sac in its invasion, even as Donald Trump wobbles over his invasion of or his attacks on Iran.
And very finally, Mr. Lucas, what do you make of the timing of this war on Iran by the US and Israel?
That's the easiest question you can ask me. I mean, Israel wants regime change in Iran. They didn't get it last June 2025. On February 26th, Donald Trump's envoys, the real estate developer Steve Witkoff, his son-in-law Jared Kushner, had their talks in Geneva with Iran. Iran restated, we're not going to give up our nuclear program entirely, even though that's a civilian nuclear program, and we're not going to severely limit our ballistic missile program. Witkoff and Kushner went back to Washington, and that's when the Trump camp said, okay, if Iran won't surrender on those 2 points, we're joining the Israelis in the attack.
Professor Scott Lucas, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much indeed for your time and bringing us your insight. Much appreciated.